r/legal advice. Life maximum 438 says. Dad's girlfriend wants to be added to deed of house. Edit, his home is in Michigan and I live in California. My dad passed away almost 2 years ago and I inherited his house. I'm his only child and he wasn't married, however has had a girlfriend/fiance for 17 years. She is family to me and still lives in his home. The last few years, before he died, he didn't really want to be with her anymore, and while they were engaged, he didn't intend on marrying. He has told me my whole life that once he's gone, all of his belongings will be mine. He wanted everything to be mine, and he always made it very clear. His death was pretty sudden, so he never actually made a will, and I had to go through probate for the house. Anyways, his girlfriend had wanted me to put her on the title when all of this happened. I told her no, because I know my dad wouldn't have wanted that, otherwise she would already been on it. He bought this house in full only about 7 years ago, so he could have put her on the title if he wanted. I did speak to an attorney about this and she agreed I shouldn't put her on the title, and was supposed to send her a rental agreement but hasn't yet. Now, almost a year later, since finally putting the house in my name, she is asking again if I will put her on the deed and it'll make insurance cheaper and will make it easier for her to do remodeling and stuff. I still know I don't want to, but I would just like other opinions. A really important detail to add is that she has a severe drinking problem and has already had to do it in the last year and a half and was in jail over the weekend just the other week. I'm scared for her to get another, and if she were on the deed, I'd be concerned my dad's home would be in jeopardy. Edit. Thank you so much everyone for the advice and I will not be putting her on the deed. I know now that I definitely need a lease agreement with her. This was mostly to vent and get some opinions on how to deal with this situation with a renter as a first-time homeowner. Jester29 says. No is a complete sentence. Do not put her on the deed. You owe her no explanation. I did speak to an attorney about this, and she agreed I shouldn't put her on the title, and was supposed to send her a rental agreement but hasn't yet. I was going to suggest this. It doesn't sound like she's paying rent, but she is fixing up the property. Just be aware that she'd likely be considered a month-to-month tenant, even if there's no lease and no rent payment, if you ever need to look into eviction. Life maximum 438 says. Thank you. She isn't paying rent, she just pays utilities and does pay the taxes for me because she wanted to. There's no mortgage on the house. This is in Michigan, where they have tenant at will if there's no actual lease agreement. It's just a stressful situation and she's family to me, which makes it hard to put my foot down. I'm 24 years old and I really know close to nothing about this kind of stuff. Intelligent Ab 6771 says. I would recommend taking over tax payments. It would be a silly thing to lose the house if she ever defaults on the tax bill and shields you from receiving any tax notices. Why not pay the taxes yourself and then collect rent? Physical Tank 1494 says. Do not do it. It is bold of her to even ask. Domestic Plant Lover says. Listen to your attorney. Offer her to lease or to move out. Why the hell would you just give her half/part of the house? From her point of view, tell her rental insurance is cheaper than homeowner's insurance. She can't remodel without you, period. It's your house, so you will be responsible for any repairs and changes to the house. No, I'm not giving you tens of thousands of dollars of ownership in my house. And for the love of God, get an attorney to write you lease. Please, please, please. She has already shown you she'd not reasonable go the full-on legally safe way. Get a lawyer to write the lease. Muzzhead Beats says. If you put her on the deed, she will become a co-owner with you. You'd be giving her 50% of the house. Firenathi Fierce says. I was left holding a rental house when my dad died. I was 17 and there was a pretty sharp learning curve, including having to evict non-paying tenants. A couple things that need your immediate attention. 1. You need home insurance. Not rental insurance. Home insurance. Like today. This protects the value of the house from things like fire and protects you from lawsuits over injuries that might happen on the property. It won't be horribly expensive. Call today and get a few quotes. 2. You need a lease. My suggestion would be to set the lease at about whatever covers the property tax and some repairs/maintenance. You may run into some questions about market rate for rent, but that is a bridge to cross another time. A lawyer can help you draw up a very basic lease for Michigan. A lease protects you and the tenant. 3. You need to receive and pay the property tax bill. Call the county assessor's office and make sure the property tax bill is sent to you. Otherwise you have no way of knowing it is being paid and risk losing the house for unpaid taxes. 4. Tell the GF that the house is your inheritance and that you will not be putting her on the deed or offering her any form of ownership. r/legal advice. Jpiro3 says, neighbor wants to bring a lawyer into a dog bite incident. I was out on a business trip last week, so my roommate and her mother were walking our dogs when our neighbor opened up their garage door. Their dog came out, unleashed, and attacked my dog. She grabbed the dog off of ours and ran back inside without a word, and I asked my roommate to take my dog to the vet. We reported the incident to the city and to the police. The bite was not serious, but the vet bill and anti-inflammation medication was around $400. I just came back and hoped to settle this person to person, but they outright stated that they will have a lawyer present when I asked to speak with them about the vet bill. I'm unsure whether going forward with speaking with them is the best solution, as I feel I'd be at a disadvantage if this lawyer does indeed exist, or if I should just go straight to small claims court in order to get the $400 from them. Feeling just a little lost and trapped in a corner, as I'm sure was their intention by immediately bringing in a lawyer over such a small bill. I live in Texas. Responsible at 5912 says, now, but I do work for a personal injury law firm who handles dog bite cases. The statutes vary by state, but I'd be willing to bet that given that it was your dog who was bitten and sustained an injury as a result of her dog being unleashed, that any lawyer advising them would be urging them to just go ahead and pay the vet bill in order to avoid facing any further legal trouble for them not having their dog safely secured. You can approach the situation with compassion and understanding and let them know that it's an unfortunate thing, but that you're willing to accept payment for the vet bill as a solution to their dog attacking yours, and just leave it at that. I would imagine that they're bluffing, but either way don't see how them having a lawyer present while you ask them to pay for your vet bill could end badly. It would cost them more to hire a lawyer to get them out of this than it would to just pay the damn vet bill. Jpiro3 says, I appreciate the advice. I knew in my head that it would be ridiculous to involve a lawyer in something so small, but my anxiety had me reach out just to hear other opinions. I certainly intended, and continue to intend, to treat this as just an accident and just want the bill paid, and continue to ignore each other afterwards. I'm a little peeved they were so quick to threaten the lawyer, even if it is most likely a bluff. But really it's just the lack of responsibility that makes me feel sad. Artench says, they most likely either have a friend/family member that is a lawyer or are full of shit. If your dogs were leashed and theirs were not, you would most likely win, but it makes a heck of a lot of sense to take a look at your state's dog bite laws before thinking about this further. It's really easy to do as well. What state are you in? MNPC says, if your representation of the facts is accurate, any half-decent lawyer will tell your neighbor to pay you. The only thing I can fathom that a lawyer would value at is to have you both sign a mutual release of claims with respect to the incident, so that whatever they pay, then the issue is resolved and you can't try to take a second bite at the proverbial apple. Call his bluff and have him schedule a time to meet. If he doesn't follow through, then sue in small claims. Dog bites in many states are strictly liability, pretty much nothing to prove other than your damages. You could also involve local animal control. If the pet wasn't licensed, or there is a bite or unleashed animal ordinance, they may confiscate it. Involving his homeowner insurance would also be a reasonable bargaining chip for you, as when they hear about the bite, they would probably raise his rates or drop him as a customer. It's in his interest to resolve informally. And you are not being the bad neighbor to pursue resolving it. r/legal advice. Skittleson Fish says, my GF signed a non-compete agreement that states she cannot be employed as a title clerk for any other company in a 50-mile radius. As the title says, her current employer made her sign the non-compete clause as one of the terms of her employment. And if she's not allowed to find title work within a 50-mile radius, her options are to either be forced to stay with her company for another 2 years until the contract is up, or be forced to find a totally different line of work in another field. The company she works for is a relatively small corporation valued in the 100,000s. I only learned about the contract when I encouraged her to seek employment in a less toxic workplace. That contract totally bars her from seeking familiar employment anywhere within a decent range from our city. A contract is a contract, I understand completely, but does anyone know any resources we could go to seek help? This is a clearly predatory employment practice, and the only reason she signed the stupid thing is because she spent 3 months looking for this job. Imagine getting hired at McDonald's and signing a paper that says you can't work at any restaurant within a 50-mile radius of any McDonald's location. That's what they're doing to my future wife, except she works as a front desk title clerk. She's not even a notary yet. Thanks in advance, any response would be greatly. A parent evaluation says, in what country, state or province? For how long of a time period? What are the terms of the 2-year contract? Can she quit without penalty? Skittleson Fish says, we're in Allegheny County, PA. She started work around 7 months ago, and the terms basically state that she cannot work as a title clerk anywhere within 50 miles of any of the company's other locations. I only just learned about the contract tonight, and I don't have a physical copy yet, but my GF is certain she remembers that the clause takes effect only after leaving the company. In so many words, if she quit tomorrow, she's not allowed to work as a title clerk anywhere else for another 2 years. That's the gist of the contract. Deef Talker says, how would the contract be enforced if she did find title work elsewhere? Where? Tao says, Pennsylvania requires the non-compete to be signed before starting the job, and you have to be compensated for signing it. You should consult an attorney before you consider leaving your job. Dew Refrigerator 11 says, I think it depends on the laws in your state, but I think these aren't enforced a lot of the time because they are expensive to enforce. I left a job once where I had signed a non-compete, but they ended up waiving it because they still would have had to pay me half of my salary for at least a year, and I don't think it was worth it for them. That would take away a lot of money for a new hire replacement. Look at the terms and see what they owe her to keep her in the non-compete. It may not be worth the hassle for them to enforce it, but they might make employees sign them, so they are afraid to leave. Help Midentify says, 9/10 it's not enforceable just based off of the job title. Non-competes generally have to be selective for time period, location, and what can be considered assets of the business that can't be taken back. Did not see any time range in your comment, and semi-sure title clerk is a paper pusher / checkbox type stuff where tbh the only thing you can really take from the business is training. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.